Sit back. Let your thoughts quiet down. Maybe you have a drink beside you, maybe something small to eat. Lean back, breathe deep, and let the night take you. Tonight we're descending somewhere you do not want to go. Somewhere colder than winter, darker than sleep, and crueler than any battlefield. Welcome to the medieval dungeon. The torch sputters in your hand as you follow the narrow stair down. The air changes with each step. First damp, then stale, then heavy, as though the stone itself is pressing against your lungs. The walls close in, slick with moisture. Every breath carries the faint sting of mold, rust, and something far worse, rot. The stair spirals, tighter, sharper. Your feet echo against the worn stone, a sound swallowed too quickly, as though the dungeon itself does not wish for voices. The guards ahead carry lanterns, their flames dim, trembling like cowards in the dark. The clink of their keys is the only reminder that men, not ghosts, walk these corridors. At the bottom, the air no longer moves. It has settled, thick and sour, with centuries of sweat and fear. You step onto the uneven floor, and the first sound is not your breath, but the drip. Slow, steady, of water striking stone. A rhythm that has beaten for generations, outlasting those who once screamed here. The torchlight reveals iron. Bars, black with rust. Their edges jagged, as if the stone itself had blood. Behind them cells. Holes carved into the earth, barely wide enough for a man to lie down. Straw mats cover the floor, if you can call it straw. More mold than fiber, crawling with lice, stinking with urine. In the corner of one cell, a bucket, full, untouched. No one here has strength enough to rise and empty it. You glance inside. Eyes stare back, hollow, wide, sunken deep into skulls. Men, or the remnants of men. Their beards are matted, their hair crawling with vermin, their bodies covered in sores. When they move, it is not the motion of the living, but the twitch of animals beaten past recognition. One whispers as you pass, but no word can be made out. Only the rasp of a throat too long without water. The guard does not stop. He knows you shouldn't linger. To look too long is to imagine yourself in their place, and you would not last a night. The cell doors are thick oak, banded with iron. You notice the marks carved into them, not by knife, but by nails, by teeth. Desperate hands clawing at freedom until they bled themselves dry. Some doors are splintered, not from the outside forcing in, but from within, as though the prisoner had tried to tear the very wood apart. All failed, deeper still. The lantern light fades, and with it, the last comfort of the world above. Here, silence is no silence. It is filled with whispers of chains grinding, water dripping, teeth chattering, and every so often, a cry. Distant, muffled. Half human, half animal. The guard stops at a door heavier than the rest. It is iron. No wood here, only black, pitted metal. A hatch opens with a screech that cuts the air. The smell pours out first. Rot, filth, the sweet stench of decay. The guard shoves you inside. The darkness swallows you whole. The cell is barely large enough to stand in, not enough to stretch your arms. The walls are damp stone, beaded with water that tastes of rust when it drips onto your lips. The floor is uneven, sloping toward a shallow trench where waste gathers, never drained. Rats skitter across your feet, bold, unafraid. They know you cannot stop them. The air burns your throat. You cough, and the sound echoes, bouncing off stone until it no longer sounds like yours. Somewhere in the dark, chains rattle. Not near, not far, just enough to remind you, you are not alone. Hours pass, but the dungeon has no hours. No day, no night, only the endless dark, broken by the occasional step of the guard above, the slam of a distant door. the whimper of another prisoner losing hope. Hunger grows quickly, sharper than thirst, but thirst is crueler. Your lips crack, your tongue swells, and you begin to think of water not as a drink, but as a dream. The drip in the corner is constant, taunting, but too far to reach. And even if you could, it is not water you would drink. Not clean, not safe, but still you would drink. Your body aches. The straw beneath you is damp, clinging, alive with lice that crawl into your clothes, your skin, your hair. Sleep does not come. Every time you close your eyes, the dark behind your eyelids is no darker than the air around you. You dream awake. A sound breaks the silence. Metal on stone. The door to your cell scraping open. A shadow enters. A figure carrying no torch. Only a bucket. It sloshes. You reach for it with trembling hands, but the figure does not pass it to you. He spills it into the trench. The smell rises, sharp and burning. Not water, not food. Waste. The figure leaves without a word. You sink back, weaker now. Your stomach growls until it no longer can. Your throat aches until no sound escapes it. The rats grow bolder. You feel them at your feet, at your hands, at your face, and you are too weak to push them away. This is the dungeon's secret. It does not kill with blade or fire. It kills with time. It kills with silence. It kills by making you forget the sun. And as you curl into the damp, stinking straw, you realize one night is enough. One night is too much. The dungeon does not need a week. It does not need a month. It only needs the dark, and you would not survive it. You wake, though you were never really asleep. The dungeon has no sleep, only exhaustion. Your body begs for rest, but every sound jolts you awake. Every shadow feels like a hand reaching for you. And this time, the sound is different. Not the scurry of rats, not the drip of water. It is footsteps. Heavy, deliberate, armored. They approach, echoing through the stone corridor, closer and closer until they stop at your door. The iron groans as the hatch scrapes open. A face peers through, pale, gaunt, framed by a helmet that hides expression. A single eye studies you. Then the hatch slams shut, and the door unlocks with a sound that chills your blood. Two men enter. One carries a torch, the other carries chains. They do not speak. They do not need to. Their work is routine. They haul you up, your body limp and trembling, and drag you through the corridor. The torchlight throws monstrous shadows on the walls. Yours among them, a twisted, staggering figure, pulled against its will. You arrive in a chamber larger than your cell, but far more terrifying. The walls here are lined not with bars, but with instruments, wooden frames, iron hooks, wheels and racks, their gears glistening with grace. Chains hang from the ceiling, swaying gently, their ends stained dark with what the torch reveals is not rust. The smell is different here. Not the rot of waste, but the sharp, metallic tang of blood mixed with sweat, mixed with smoke from the torch. This is not where men are left to rot. This is where they are broken. The guards shove you forward. Before you, a man waits. He is not armored. He does not carry a sword. His clothes are plain, his face unremarkable. Yet his eyes tell you what he is. The torturer. He does not need steel to command fear. He carries it in his presence, in the way he looks at you as though you are not a person, but a task. Without a word, he gestures. The guards bind your wrists and hoist you onto the frame of the rack. You feel the ropes tighten around your ankles, your wrists pulled taut, your body stretched until your joints scream. The torturer walks slowly to the rack's wheel. He places his hand upon it with the tenderness of a craftsman, the way a musician might rest his fingers on a beloved instrument. And then he turns. At first, it is only discomfort. Your shoulders ache, your legs strain. But with each turn, the pain blossoms, grows, until it is no longer in your joints, but in your very bones. Your body stretches beyond its limits, tendons tearing like ropes frayed by too much weight. You scream. You cannot help it. And your voice joins the countless others that have filled this chamber before you. The torturer does not flinch. He listens. He studies. Your scream is his language, and he reads it like scripture. Another turn. Another. Your vision blurs. You think your shoulders will tear free from their sockets. Then he stops. He always stops before the breaking point. He wants you alive. He wants you to feel everything. The guards release the ropes. You collapse to the floor, your body trembling, limbs burning. But there is no relief. Hands grab you, drag you upright, and lead you to another device. A chair, but not a chair. Its seat is iron, its arms fitted with clasps. Beneath it, a brazier glows, coals red hot. The heat licks at your skin even before you sit. You resist, but resistance is useless. They strap you in, the iron searing your flesh, your thighs blistering against the heat. The smell of your own skin fills your nose, sweet and sickening. You scream again, but the walls swallow the sound. No one will come. No one will help. The torturer tilts his head, listening, judging. Not too much, not too little. He knows how far to push before your body fails. You are not the first. You will not be the last. They unstrap you. You fall forward, gasping, your body marked with burns, your limbs heavy with pain. The guards drag you again, this time toward a table. Upon it lies an array of tools, pincers, knives, branding irons. Each is clean, polished, gleaming in the torchlight. Not because the torturer values order, but because rust dulls pain, and he prefers it sharp. He selects a pincer. He approaches. You flinch, but you cannot move. He grips your finger, pulls, and then white fire explodes in your mind. The pincer tears not flesh but nail, ripped clean from your hand. Blood wells, your scream cracks, and the world tilts. He places the bloody nail into a small bowl beside him. A collection, a trophy. One by one, he works, not quickly, not slowly, but with precision. You lose track of time, of pain, of self. You are no longer a person. You are a vessel for agony, a body through which centuries of cruelty repeat their ritual. At last, the guards haul you back to your cell. They throw you onto the straw. The door slams. Darkness returns. You lie there, broken. Your body burns. Your hands throb. Your skin stinks of charred flesh. Every breath is a labor, every twitch of muscle a reminder of what has been done. And still, this was only the beginning, because in the dungeon, pain is not the end. Pain is the language, and you are only starting to learn it. And in that moment, shivering in the dark, you realize you would not last a night. You lie in the dark, the wounds on your hands pulsing like living things. Each heartbeat throbs against the ragged flesh where your nails once were. You try to close your eyes, but sleep will not come. Not here, not in this place. Because the dungeon has its own kind of silence. Not absence of sound, but a silence that presses into your skull, louder than any scream. Hours pass, or perhaps days. Time means nothing here. There is no sun, no moon, only the dripping of water, the rattling of rats, the occasional shuffle of boots in the corridor. You try to measure time by your breath, but even that slips away. Each exhale feels slower than the last, as though the air itself resists leaving your lungs. Then comes the hunger. At first it is an ache, gnawing, insistent. You tell yourself you can endure it. But hunger does not wait. It sharpens. It digs. Your stomach twists, pulling itself into knots. The pain becomes so constant that you forget your other wounds. When the guards finally bring food, it is no relief. A bowl slides under the bars. A slop of barley, watery and grey, floating with bits of something you cannot name. You eat it anyway, clawing at it with trembling hands. The taste is bitter, sour, laced with rot. And yet you scrape the bowl clean, licking the last traces from its wooden edge. The shame comes after. The realization that you begged for this, that you consumed it like a starving dog. The dungeon does not only break your body, it breaks your dignity. The next day, if day exists, there is no food. Or the day after, you lose track. Your body grows weaker. Your belly cramps until you vomit bile into the straw. Rats creep closer, no longer afraid, their black eyes gleaming in the dim light as they sniff at your sores. You swat at them, but your arms are too weak. They retreat only when a guard's footsteps echo through the hall, only when the torchlight spills across the stone. But when the light fades, they return, at night. Though night is just another word here, you begin to hear things. Not footsteps, not chains, whispers. They slither through the dark, curling around the edges of your mind. At first, you think it is other prisoners, speaking through the walls. You press your ear against the stone, straining to hear. But the whispers are not words. They are laughter. Moans. Shards of voices without shape. You cover your ears. It does nothing. The whispers live inside your skull now, feeding on the silence, breeding in the shadows. You try to pray. The words falter. Your God feels distant here, smothered beneath the weight of stone. You mouth the prayers anyway, your lips trembling, your tongue dry as leather. The whispers only grow louder. Then the scratching begins. You wake, or perhaps you were never asleep, to the sound of nails against stone. Slow, deliberate, clawing. You lift your head. The cell is empty, yet the sound persists, scraping from behind the walls, beneath the floor, inside your skull. You dig your fingers into your ears until blood trickles down your neck. Still, the scratching continues. You laugh. You cannot help it. A dry, broken laugh that echoes in the stone. The sound startles you, because it does not sound like you anymore. It sounds like the whispers. The guards do not care. They walk past, glancing once, then moving on. To them, madness is expected. It is the dungeon's harvest. One night, though here, nights are lies, you hear a voice, clear, sharp, cutting through the fog of whispers. Stand. You jolt upright, head snapping toward the sound. A figure stands at the bars, cloaked in shadow. You blink, rub your eyes, and he is gone. Only the stone remains. You collapse back to the straw, heart racing. Sleep takes you in fragments, each dream worse than the last. You dream of the rack, of the iron chair, of the pincer's bite. But more than that, you dream of endless halls, twisting corridors where you run barefoot, pursued by nothing and everything. The walls close in, the whispers laugh, and always, at the end, a door waits. When you open it, there is only darkness, and in that darkness, eyes. You wake with a scream. Your throat is raw. Your body is drenched in sweat, your heart pounding like a drum in a funeral procession. The guards do not come. No one comes. Your body shrinks. Your skin clings to your bones. Every motion aches. When you reach for the bowl of water, your hands tremble so violently that half of it spills onto the straw. You lap the rest greedily. Like an animal, your face pressed into the wood. You tell yourself you will not cry. But the tears come anyway, hot and bitter, cutting through the grime on your cheeks. The dungeon has reduced you, no, consumed you. You are no longer a person. You are hunger, pain, fear. And that is when the door opens again. The guards step inside, chains clinking. They drag you upright, your legs buckling. The torchlight blinds you after so much dark. You stumble, a collapse, are hauled upright again. But this time they do not take you to the chamber of tools. They take you deeper. The air grows colder, damper. The walls drip with slime. The whispers grow louder, or maybe they are only in your head now. The torchlight flickers, and for a moment you think you see faces in the stone. Hollow eyes, twisted mouths, souls trapped forever in the dungeon walls. At last, you arrive. A pit yawns before you, black and endless. Chains hang above it, swaying gently, their ends fitted with hooks. The smell rises, decay, rot, old death. The torturer is here too. He smiles this time. It is worse than when he did not. Without a word, he gestures. The gods bind you, haul you upward, and leave you hanging above the pit. The hook digs into your flesh. The chain sways. Below, the darkness breathes. And in that moment, you understand the truth. The dungeon does not want your confession. It does not want your obedience. It wants your mind. And piece by piece, it will take it. The dungeon is never truly dark. Even when the torches burn out, even when the door is sealed, some faint glow seems to live in the stones themselves. A damp shimmer, a memory of old fires, of old screams. It is not light, not in the way the sun is light. It is the absence of light pretending to be something else. You lie on the straw, body broken, mind frayed. The iron hook has left its mark, deep and wet, a wound that will never heal. Your shoulders throb with every shallow breath. You know you will not move again the way you once did. And yet, this is not what destroys you. It is the silence that comes after the screams, after the footsteps, after the chains. A silence so heavy that even your own heartbeat seems ashamed to break it. You think of the world above, of the fields that once stretched toward the horizon, of mornings when the frost glittered on the thatch, when the roosters called, when the river steamed under the sun. All of that feels distant now, like a dream dreamt by another man. You are no longer that man. You are the dungeons now. The whispers do not stop. They curl around you, rising from the stones, from the pit, from your own fractured mind. They speak in voices you almost know. The monk, the neighbor, your wife, your children. They say your name the way a prayer is said at a grave. Soft, final. You try to cover your ears, but your arms are too weak. You roll onto your side, curling into yourself, but the voices seep through bone and skin alike. The torturer does not come again. He does not need to. His work is finished. You have been left here, like all the others, to become part of the stones, to vanish without ever truly leaving. You think of the faces carved into the wood, of the rider in the snow, of the symbols etched in ice. For a moment, you wonder if this dungeon is not simply a prison, but a threshold. A place where the living blur into the dead, where the body lingers but the soul is already walking elsewhere. You close your eyes. The silence grows heavier. You imagine the earth above, the sound of bells in distant villages, the smell of rice boiling, the laughter of children chasing each other through the snow. You try to hold on to it, but the images slip away. The dungeon does not allow such things. It gives you only stone, only silence, only the reminder that no man, not you, not any man, could last here. Not for a day, not for a night, not even for a single hour without being unmade. The dungeon is patient. It does not hurry, and in its patience lies its victory. Because long after the world forgets your name, long after the rice fields are planted and harvested again, long after the snow melts from the roofs above, the dungeon will still be here, waiting. The chains will still sway. The pit will still breathe. The silence will still press against the stone like water against a dam. And someone else, another unlucky soul, another broken body, will take your place. The dungeon will teach them too. It will show them what you have learned. That here, honor means nothing. Strength means nothing. Faith means nothing. Here, there is only silence, and silence always wins. The fire in the corner sputters, then dies. The room fades into darkness. The dungeon waits, and you, like all who came before, become part of its story. The dungeon does not sleep. Even now, when you think all sound has gone, you realize the dungeon has its own kind of breathing. The stones contract and expand with the cold. Water drips from the ceiling, drop by drop, like a clock that measures not time but endurance. Somewhere deep beyond your cell, chains clink against one another, stirred by a draft you cannot feel. You lie still, listening. Not because you expect rescue, not because you expect company, but because listening is all you have left. The dungeon teaches you this silence is not empty. Silence is full of echoes, full of memories, full of the weight of everything that has happened within these walls. You remember the rider, the snow, the standing stones. For a heartbeat, you believe that what waits in the forest was kinder than this. That perhaps he was not a spectre, but a messenger, a figure warning you of the fate that awaited if you stayed. But you stayed. You always stayed. Farmers always do. The road is for others, not for you. Now, the road is gone. There is only stone. Only silence. The straw beneath you smells of mold. The iron rings in the wall are streaked with rust. Someone else was here before you. Someone else curled against these same stones, staring at the same cracks, hearing the same whispers. They too thought they might last. They too thought they were different. But the dungeon has patience. It waits until you understand, until you realize there is no outlasting it. Your breath grows shallow. Each inhale tastes of dust and damp. Each exhale seems to vanish too quickly, as though the air itself swallows it whole. You try to count your breaths, but you lose track. Numbers slip away. Time slips away. You wonder if this is death. Not sudden, not sharp. Not a blade across the throat or the crack of a spear, but slow, patient, a death that creeps like frost, inch by inch, until the body is still and the soul no longer remembers what it means to leave. You close your eyes. Behind the lids, the dungeon follows. Its walls stretch on forever, corridors winding, doors locked, pits yawning. You walk through them in dreams, barefoot, shivering, searching for a way out. But every path curves back to the same cell, to the same straw, to the same stone. The dungeon does not let you go. You realize then, it never did. The dungeon was waiting for you all along. Waiting in the snow. Waiting in the whisper of bamboo. Waiting in the knock at your door. The rider was never outside. He was here. Always here. Watching. Waiting. The coins, the glove, the carvings, they were not gifts. They were not warnings. They were invitations. Each one leading you closer. Each one binding you tighter. And you accepted them. You carried them. You hid them beneath your floor. You thought you could bury them. But in truth, they buried you. Now, you are where you were always meant to be. The dungeon breathes. You breathe with it. In, out. Stone flesh. Silence. Silence. Somewhere above, life goes on. The fields are planted. The snow melts into the river. Children laugh, unaware of the stones beneath their feet. The world forgets you, as it forgets all who come here. But the dungeon does not forget. It keeps every whisper, every cry, every breath. You are not the first. You are not the last. You are only another voice in its silence, and when the silence swallows you whole, the dungeon will remain. Waiting. Always waiting. The dungeon grows colder. Not in a sudden way. Not in the way of wind tearing through a shutter, or snow spilling across the floor. But in a creeping way, like damp fingers pressing deeper into your skin. You pull your thin robe tighter, but it does nothing. The cold is not in the air anymore. It is in the stone. It is in you. You press your palm against the wall. The surface is rough, scarred by time. For a moment, you imagine that if you trace the cracks, if you follow their lines long enough, they will lead you somewhere. A map, a secret, a way out. But the cracks only wander. They twist and split and vanish, leaving you where you began. You sit back. Your hand tingles, numb from touching the stone too long. The dungeon hums. Not with voices, not with chains, but with weight. A weight that presses against your chest until you forget what it felt like to breathe deeply. You take shallow breaths now, careful ones, afraid to stir the air too much, afraid to wake something that is already awake. Your eyes drift shut. The silence thickens. In your mind, you see snow falling again. Not outside, not above, but inside the dungeon. Snow settling across the stone, white against the black. You reach out to touch it, but it melts before your hand arrives. Every flake dies before it lands, leaving only the cold behind. You remember the rider, his hood, his horse, the way he never spoke but always answered. You wonder if he was the dungeon's shadow all along. If the coins, the carvings, the glove, the marks in the snow, all of them were just the dungeon teaching you its language, a language of silence, a language of patience, a language of endings. You curl onto your side. The straw pricks your skin, but you barely feel it anymore. Your body is heavy, yet somehow it drifts. You imagine the dungeon beneath you stretching down forever. Cell upon cell, chamber upon chamber, endless halls filled with silence. You are just one stone in the wall, one echo in the void. Time slips. You wake, or think you do, to the sound of dripping water. The drops are slow, deliberate. They strike metal, then stone. Ring, fade. You count them, but the numbers dissolve. The sound does not change. It has always been dripping. It will always be dripping. You close your eyes again. In the darkness, you see the standing stones. They rise tall, crowned with frost, untouched by snow. The rider stands among them, his cloak still, his face hidden. But this time, you realize the stones are not around him. They are around you. You are standing where he stood. You are the figure waiting. The dungeon breathes. You breathe with it. In, out. Stone, flesh. Silence. The thought drifts across you like mist. Perhaps you were never meant to leave. Perhaps the road, the snow, the rider, all of it was only a way of leading you here. And now you are exactly where you belong. Your chest rises slowly, falls slowly. The dungeon keeps your breath. The dungeon keeps your silence. The dungeon keeps you. And when the last flicker of thought fades, when even memory is gone, the dungeon will remain, waiting, always waiting. The stone does not move. It has never moved. And yet, when you close your eyes, you feel it shifting, not forward, not backward, not in the way of walls collapsing or earth giving way. No, it shifts in weight, as though each block of the dungeon remembers something older, heavier, and presses it into you. You draw in a breath. It is thin, metallic, tinged with damp. It clings to your lungs and refuses to leave. When you exhale, you cannot tell if it is your breath that drifts out or the dungeon's. The air listens. You lie still, and you wonder how long you have been lying still. Days, hours, minutes that stretched like years. The dungeon has no clock, no bell, no rooster to greet the dawn. It has only its silence, and its silence is longer than time. You try to remember the world above. Fields, snow, a river in spring, the sound of a child laughing. The memory is thin now, like smoke spread too far by wind. You reach for it, but your hand closes on nothing. Nothing but the cold. A drip falls. Another follows. The sound is eternal. Each drop is a century. Each echo is a history that will never be written. You turn your head toward the sound, though you already know what you will see, a streak of damp tracing the stone, running down to the floor, vanishing into the earth, a river reduced to nothing, an ocean trapped in a single bead. Your thoughts wander back to the rider, his stillness, his silence, his patience. And now, here in the dungeon, you wonder if you have become him. Cloaked not in fabric but in stone. Hooded not by cloth, but by shadow. Watching, waiting. The idea does not frighten you. It soothes you. For what is fear but the body's rebellion against silence? What is fear but noise, rattling against the endless weight of nothing? And what are you now? Not a farmer. Not a son. Not a villager bound by the rice harvest or the daimyo's hand. You are only stillness. Only breath. Only stone. The dungeon accepts you. It does not care for your name, nor your story, nor the path that led you here. It only holds. It only waits. It only presses its silence deeper into your bones, until your bones become the silence themselves. You imagine the snow outside still falling, layer upon layer, burying the village, the fields, the well, the cherry tree. You imagine that when spring comes, if spring ever comes, the snow will melt and rush into the earth, flooding the dungeon, filling its cracks, seeping into its walls. And then you will no longer know where you end, and where the dungeon begins. Perhaps you already don't. A shiver runs down your spine, though it feels less like your own movement and more like the dungeon reminding you it is there. You curl tighter. The straw beneath you shifts, sharp against your skin, brittle with frost. You press your cheek into it anyway, because it is the only thing that reminds you you are still flesh. Somewhere far off, deep in the stone, a sound stirs. Not footsteps, not chains. Something slower. The earth settling in its sleep. You hold your breath, waiting for it to come again. It does not. The silence folds over it, thick and complete. You close your eyes, and there, in that dark behind the lids, the dungeon blooms into a new shape. The stones are no longer grey. They are black, etched with lines of white like frost frozen into veins. You see paths carved into them, leading down, always down, endless. At the bottom, the rider waits, always the rider, but now he no longer carries a sword. He carries nothing. He does not need it. The silence is his blade. He lifts a hand. He does not beckon. He does not command. He only exists. And that is enough. You understand now. The rider was never coming for you. He was always waiting for you to come to him. The dungeon is not your prison. It is your road. The road that all things walk eventually. The road that snow walks when it melts. The road that fire walks when it burns to ash. The road that silence walks when it chooses a voice. And now you are walking it too. Slowly, softly, without ever rising from your pallet. One breath, then the next. One silence, then the next. Until the dungeon no longer waits for you. Because you are the dungeon. Because you were always meant to be. The dungeon breathes. Not in air. Not in sound. But in weight. A slow, invisible rhythm that presses and releases, like the earth itself has a heartbeat. You lie still, your body small against it, and you realize that it has always been breathing. You were simply too loud to hear it before. Now, In this silence, you hear everything. The scrape of frost as it grows, slow and patient, across the stone. The faint creak of the timbers above, old wood groaning in its sleep. Even the drip of water has changed, not a drop anymore, but a pulse. A voice, one that speaks only in intervals too wide for human thought to measure. You try to remember language, words, names, but they slip from you like water through fingers. They feel too small now, too fragile. The dungeon does not speak in syllables, it speaks in stone. And so you let them go. The faces of the villagers blur. Your wife's eyes, your children's laughter, the sound of the rice cracking in the pot. All of it fades. Not because you do not love them, not because you do not want them, but because the dungeon does not carry them. The dungeon does not carry anything except weight. You curl tighter, though you know it will not help. The cold is no longer outside you. It has moved in, filled your bones, replaced your blood. When you shift, the frost does not crack. It bends with you, as though your veins themselves are turning to ice. And then you see it again. The rider, not outside, not in dreams. Here, in the dungeon, he does not enter. There is no door to open, no lock to break. He is simply there, as though he had always been waiting in the corner, where the shadows are thickest. His hood is lower now, or maybe the dungeon itself hides his face. He stands with one hand resting against the stone, as if feeling its breath. He does not look at you, not at first. He looks at the wall, listening, as though the wall is telling him something. When he does turn, the weight in your chest deepens. It is not fear. It is not relief. It is something heavier, something older. A knowing. You expect him to move closer. He does not. He does not need to. His presence is already at your side, already pressing against your skin, already filling the hollow places inside you that hunger and cold left behind. The silence between you stretches. And in that silence, you understand you are not waiting for rescue. You are not waiting for release. You are waiting for surrender. The dungeon is not punishment. The dungeon is not exile. The dungeon is the road, and the rider is only its shape. You close your eyes, and when you do, you are no longer lying on straw. You are kneeling on snow. The standing stones are around you, black and bare. The wind does not touch them. The flakes vanish before they land. The rider stands within the circle, not waiting, not calling, simply being. Your hands rest on your thighs, your breath slows, and for the first time the silence does not feel heavy. It feels like rest. It feels like home. The silence does not end. It becomes everything. The dungeon fades, the walls dissolve, the frost itself thins, until even cold is no longer cold, but only a memory of sensation. You are kneeling still, yet you are also standing and walking, and lying down all at once. Time is not a river here. Time is a pool, deep, still, endless. The rider does not move, and yet you feel him closer. Not in steps, not in distance, but in knowing. His presence folds over you the way snow folds over the earth. Quiet, absolute, without resistance. You do not fight it. You do not wish to. The carvings come to your mind. The hooded figure, the kneeling form, the silent watcher. You understand now they were not warnings. They were not curses. They were mirrors. Reflections of the path you were always meant to walk. Each bundle, each mark, each whispered breath in the night was not threat, but invitation. You are not prisoner. You are not victim. You are pilgrim. The dungeon is temple. You breathe. The air no longer stings. The frost no longer bites. For the first time, the cold feels soft, like cloth drawn gently across the skin. You realize you are not shivering anymore. You realize you are not afraid. And then, slowly, the rider lifts his hand. Not in threat, not in command, only in gesture. The way a teacher might lift a hand to show a pupil the path of brush on paper. The way a father might show a child how to hold a tool. The hand opens, and in it, you see not a weapon, not a chain, not even the red, threaded cloth. You see nothing, and yet, in that nothing, you feel weight. A gift too vast to hold, too simple to name. You bow your head without thinking, and when you raise it again, the rider is gone. But the silence remains. And the silence is enough. The dungeon exhales. The frost loosens. The stone warms by the width of a breath. You realize, dimly, that the world outside still turns. Rice still grows, fire still burns, lives still pass in hunger and laughter and grief. But those things no longer press on you. They no longer bind you. They belong to another road. Yours has only begun. You rise. Your legs do not tremble. Your hands do not shake. You step forward. Though there is no floor, you step again. Though there is no wall, and then you are walking on snow. The standing stones ring you, silent as ever. The clearing is white, untouched, unbroken. The sky above is black, lit with stars that do not move. The rider is nowhere, yet everywhere. His breath, his gaze, his silence thread through the air like unseen chords. You kneel once more, not because you must, because it feels true. And in that kneeling, in that stillness, you finally understand what all the knocks, all the bundles, all the dreams were saying. The path was never outside. The path was never beyond the village. The path was here, inside you, waiting for the moment you would be quiet enough to hear it. The snow drifts gently. It does not touch the stones. It does not touch you. It vanishes before it lands, as though the world itself refuses to lay weight on this moment. You breathe. Once. Twice. And in that breath, you are no longer farmer, no longer villager, no longer afraid. You are road. You are silence. You are the one who walks. And somewhere, not far, not near, the rider turns his horse. The road opens, and you take the first step. The world does not end. It only grows still.